long years. Over 200 years of scientific research have revealed that the cicada is the Methuselah of the insect world, living longer than any other insect. The cicada nymph lives alone in an underground passage several feet below the surface of the earth. As the 17th year of its existence draws to a close, the cicada nymph tunnels upward and stops just a quarter of an inch from the surface, there to await a mysterious inner prompting. As soon as the sun goes down on the appointed day, millions and millions of cicada alarm clocks go off all over the eastern half of the United States. Responding to the signal, the cicadas push their way from their dark prison. Exactly 17 years ago, parents of these cicadas were enacting this same role at this very spot. It's rather embarrassing, isn't it? The timekeeping ability of the periodic cicada makes man's mental alarm clock look pretty rusty. At this point in the investigation, it seemed that we might be on the trail of a significant truth. So we decided to carry the investigation one step further, into the field of chemistry. Some chemical reactions take place instantaneously. This is glycerin. Looks harmless enough, doesn't it? Of course, if we mix it with nitric acid, it gets a little fussy. That makes nitroglycerin, and it's no plaything. Let's take a little potassium permanganate, put in the crucible. And now add some glycerin. You ready? Disappointing, isn't it? But the reaction is taking place just as surely as over here. It's just slower, that's all. The visible evidence of some chemical reaction is a change in color. Let's put some sodium carbonate in some water. And then some phenolphthalein solution. The bright pink color is characteristic of the reaction. The mercuric chloride potassium iodide reaction is an interesting one. The mercuric chloride is in the large beaker. Here, a solution of potassium iodide. First, just a bit of the potassium iodide, and we instantly have a very heavy precipitate, orange-yellow in color. Now, the same potassium iodide that formed the precipitate, and it instantly clears. Granted an accurate knowledge of the conditions involved, it is possible to predict not only what will happen when certain chemicals are mixed, but when it will happen as well. The classic test for the presence of starch is a simple one, just a bit of ordinary iodine. A little laundry starch, a weak solution of iodine, and as they are brought together, we have the characteristic deep blue color of the iodine-starch reaction. If we vary this simple experiment just a bit, we can add another dimension to the reaction: time. We'll use the iodine and starch again. This time, the iodine will be in the form of iodic acid, I2O5. And to the starch, we have added some sulfurous acid, H2SO3. Now, to ensure that the chemicals will mix thoroughly, we'll agitate them violently. Add the starch. More mixing. And nothing happens. Oh, but we haven't prevented the reaction. We've merely delayed it just a bit. Watch the solution carefully. Now, that wasn't an accident. It happened right on schedule. 17 seconds. The chemicals were mixed that way. All right, let's try it again, and this time make it a little longer. Say 26 seconds. See, according to our figures, that should require 85 milliliters of the starch solution. Measure it as carefully as we can here under these conditions. Well, I think that should do it. Once again, we agitate the solution. Add the starch and start the clock at the same time. Now, this is a photoelectric cell relay. It is controlled by the light beam passing through the liquid. When the beam of light is interrupted, the clock will stop. And when the chemical change takes place, it will stop the clock and time the reaction automatically. Watch it carefully now. There it is, exactly 26 seconds. It is interesting to observe these clocks and to marvel at them, but how can we explain them? How would you explain the alarm clock in the human brain? Some people would say, well, man is a wonderful creature with a highly developed intelligence. But how about the cicada? Well, it's rather embarrassing, but he's probably smart too. How about the chemicals? Are they smart? Obviously, that can't be the answer. As we go from the chemicals through the cicada to man, we are ascending a scale of intelligence. It is interesting to note, however, that as we ascend the scale of creature intelligence, we also descend another scale, that of accuracy and dependability. Man's mental clock is much less reliable than the cicada's, and even the cicada can't match the chemicals. The chemicals are completely dependable because they are completely subject to God's law. Did you ever stop to think what this world would be like if the chemicals were not dependable? I'd hate to walk into a chemistry laboratory and try to perform an experiment. If chemical behavior were no more predictable than human behavior, we couldn't take a drink of water nor draw a breath of air with any safety or certainty. But we're fortunate indeed that the chemicals obey the law of God. But how about man? The submission of the chemicals to the law of God is a blind, involuntary thing. Man, on the other hand, has a mind, a will, and a God-given power of choice. He can submit his will to the will of God, or he can choose to defy God, go his own way and defy his laws. But how smart is it for a man to disobey the God that created him? Is it a mark of intelligence? Some seem to feel it is. In a criminal society composed of those who defy human law, disobedience to the law is sometimes considered a mark of distinction, and obedience a sign of weakness. Today, there is a segment of intellectual society that seems to feel that obedience to God's moral and spiritual law is a sign of weakness, and that simple faith and humble submission to his will is somehow intellectually degrading. And yet, down through the centuries, there comes the quiet voice of one who says, I came not to do mine own will, but the will of him that sent me. In this age, when some have almost deified the human intellect, there are those who say, I will trust nothing but myself. I will follow my reason regardless of where it leads me. And again that quiet voice. There is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Today, man is frantically searching for a solution to his problem. But isn't the first step a recognition of what the problem is? And I wonder, isn't the problem right here before us in the things that we've been considering? Unlike the chemicals, man has a will of his own. He can choose to obey God's law or defy it. Here are two liquids. This is water. This, a deadly poison. Now, I have a power of choice. I can drink the water or the poison. But right here, my power of choice stops. I can't choose the result. The result is fixed by laws that are immutable and inviolate. We have another choice, you and I. We can choose to believe God and obey him, or we can go our own way in unbelief. But here again, we can't choose the result. It is fixed by the eternal law of God, who says, "He that believeth on the Son hath everlasting life. But he that believeth not the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God abideth on him."